they took the crowbars and pried it open and opened it and lifted it out of the box, and we all looked at each other and said, "Oh, are we in trouble?" I shot a shot, 2 shots with the damn thing, and just sent it back to the studio saying, "You really don't want us to continue with this, do you?" And they looked at it and said, "Nope, wait, stop."
Predator began with 2 brothers, Jim and John Thomas. As kids, they were brought up with stories from the Brothers Grimm, Beowulf, and mythological tales that included the Minotaur and Cyclops. They would evolve the essence of such creatures and turn the idea into an alien hunter. Jim sparked the concept and asked his brother John, who was currently recovering from a back injury, to help him write it in 1983. For about 3 months, the two would sit on the beach and compose the story, which was always based on Jim's question, what would it be like to be hunted by a dilettante hunter from another planet the way we hunt big game in Africa? Now, there is a lot of confusion out there about the genesis of the Predator film. You can go on many sites or videos on YouTube, and the reporting will confidently state that Predator was written as a result of a Rocky joke. But this is not entirely true. In 1985, the script was most likely changed due to the joke, but the original script was written long before the Rocky joke, which we will cover in a minute. The collector's edition DVD text commentary of Predator states that the writers completed their first script in September 1983 and that it was sold in early 1984 to Fox. And here is a screenshot of that actual commentary. What is really amazing about the sale was that neither Jim nor John had a lawyer or agent when they sold it, which was pretty amazing considering the reputation of such Hollywood deals. Since we always look for multiple sources, we did find a Games Radar article where the writers, Jim and John Thomas, verified they finished the script in September 1983 and sold it in early 1984.
We had an idea about doing a story about a brotherhood of hunters who came from another planet to hunt all kinds of things, but we realized very quickly that wouldn't work very well, so we picked one hunter who was going to hunt the most dangerous species, which had to be man.
Now, if you want to find the original 1983 script, good luck, because it's nowhere. Regardless, when their script was done, they sent out letters to anyone they could, whether agents or producers, and they were turned down at every angle. It got to the point that they were so desperate they would slip their script under some doors at 20th Century Fox. The script found its way into Michael Levy's office, and soon the script was purchased. The first person selected for this film as director was New Zealander Geoff Murphy, who was behind The Quiet Earth in 1985 and would later make such films as Young Guns 2, Free Jack, and Under Siege 2. Murphy met with Fox and the executives. Things seemed to go well as a deal was being hammered out, while Murphy spent time with the writers. The writers and director got along very well. Murphy was commissioned and given a room at Fox and was under a pay-or-play deal for $150,000. They worked for 3 months tooling the script together as a team. They focused mainly on the unit of humans, and it was fleshed out that the main character was a generational soldier who cared about who he fought and had natural disdain for the CIA. Murphy thought Harrison Ford could play the lead, while James Woods would play the CIA operative. They even played with the idea of making the Predator a female, but the studio was against that. They figured that in the 1980s, 17-year-old boys were not willing to accept that a woman could kick the ass of an entire U.S. Navy SEAL team, even if she was wearing a fancy suit. We tried them on the idea of the alien being an old man like a 150-year-old guy, thus still maintaining its frailty, but avoiding it being a woman. They didn't like this either. They wanted an ugly alien. They didn't like the idea that mankind's foes could be beautiful or fragile. The American public wouldn't buy it. In the end, they went for the standard rubber alien. After about 3 months, Fox hired Joel Silver. When Joel came on the scene, he pushed for Arnold Schwarzenegger to be cast as the lead, and Murphy didn't really like the idea. The lead we had written was the quintessential American GI. You couldn't cast an Austrian. He couldn't even speak English properly. Joel informed me that Arnold was just finishing a film called Commando, which was due to open soon. If Commando takes $20 million in its opening weekend, Arnold will play the lead. There would be no argument. The dollar sign is the bottom line. Get used to it. Realizing that there was no way around this one, I agreed to it, provided we could rewrite the script. If Arnie didn't fit the script, then we would have to make the script fit Arnie. With nothing to do but wait for the release of Commando, Murphy returned to his home in New Zealand for a short vacation. Budding director John McTiernan had heard his name was mentioned in circles involving this movie, and he wanted to get his foot in the door if the rumors were true. He had only done one small film called Nomads. Whether he knew a director was currently attached or not, I could not discover. His agent suggested that he hire a business lawyer named Jake Bloom. This lawyer's firm just happened to be the same one that represented Arnold Schwarzenegger, and McTiernan stated that this connection to Arnold helped him get the job somehow. Since this was McTiernan's first big studio film, he was on a short leash. He was allowed little changes to the script, and anything he wanted to do, he couldn't just wing it. He needed permission to do it. Back in New Zealand, Geoff Murphy was called by his agent and told he had been fired from the film. It was stated Arnold had been cast for the movie, and that in his contract he had final approval for the director of the film. Schwarzenegger wanted John McTiernan. As to why Murphy was let go, rumor had it that Arnold was very sore about Murphy's meeting with Dino De Laurentiis about Conan the Barbarian 3. I had referred to him as Cronin the Librarian. Evidently, Mr. Schwarzenegger is a very sensitive soul. He had every right to fire me. Arnie had the right of approval of the director for Predator written into his contract. So that is how I blew probably the biggest break I could ever have got in Hollywood. It was my big mouth. This brings us to the infamous Rocky joke. By now, I have given a lot of receipts establishing that there are a lot of reasons why the Rocky joke can't be the core reason for the script. But since there are so many major outlets pushing this narrative, let's explore the period revolving around the joke. The joke was that the upcoming Rocky IV film had Rocky beating a Russian opponent. Since he had beaten everyone on Earth, it was joked in studio circles that Rocky V should be about Rocky taking on an alien. Rocky was in production during the spring of 1985 and went to theaters in November of that year. So there is no way the joke defined this film when it sprung into the mind of the writers at all. There is a good chance the studio manipulated the movie because of the joke, because McTiernan said this to a French interviewer who asked if Rambo influenced the movie in 2010.
The writers wrote a story, in effect, about a creature from another planet who goes hunting and he makes a mistake and just starts hunting the wrong person. I suppose the studio thought it was a combination of Alien and Rambo, but it wasn't on our part.
Now the question isn't about Rocky, but it did show that the studio had Stallone on their minds. It's no surprise that the studio would force things into the script, especially on a new director like McTiernan, who was so at the time. However, Predator producer Joel Silver laughed at the idea the movie was based on a joke during a Starlog interview back in the day. He stated, "We beat Stallone to the idea. As we often say on this channel, it's up to you to decide what you believe, regardless of the conclusion this channel finds or believes." And remember, we're not saying the joke didn't influence the film in any way. We're just saying it was not the genesis for this film. The first version of the script was called Hunter, and the earliest one we are using is dated July 27th, 1985, written by both brothers. The script begins with a team exiting helicopters landing, and a Lieutenant Alan Matheny steps off to meet Colonel Phillips. The colonel tells Matheny that a team led by Lieutenant Hopper was sent to investigate a downed helicopter and have not been heard from, and that Matheny and his team needs to check it out. It is then that John Dixon is introduced as an intelligence officer from Langley. Apparently, the downed chopper crew had sensitive intelligence data, and he is there to ensure that they get the men back, and he has to go with them to advise. In this version, the team leader and the CIA agent do not know each other. On the helicopter flight, we are introduced to all of the team, including Blaine, who carries a big 240-pound weapon and is the ordnance specialist who chews tobacco. Hawkins, lean, raw-boned, and in his early 20s. Ramirez, a streetwise Chicano. Dillon, who is the radio man and medic. Miguel, who is the scout. Murphy, an Irish man from the Bronx with a bandana, and Williams, a tough black man who is buds with Blaine. Instead of Blaine carrying Painless, it is Williams who carries Painless, and it is an M60. After getting final orders, the team rappels down to the forest and immediately finds the chopper. They find 2 dead people, and Miguel starts scouting. There is a moment where Dixon tries to tell the team what to do, but Matheny tells him he will let him know when he can take command. Miguel finds the bodies of 3 skinned men upside down, and they cut them down. Dixon then ghosts Blaine, and it is Blaine who threatens Dixon in this version rather than Mac, who is Williams in this script. When they reach the camp, a captive is shot after being kicked out of a cave by a mustached bad guy, and it is clear the captive has been tortured. We see a rocket launcher explaining how they downed the chopper. A big difference is that the Predator is there watching everything. A butterfly that Ramirez caused to move as he approaches the cave flies on the camo of the Predator arm, and after flying away, its imprint remains for a short bit before changing. 2 eyes stare at Ramirez from above before disappearing. When the battle begins, a grenade is lobbed into the camp, and the bullet fire begins. Then, many race into the camp, and it's pretty much a bloodbath. Hawkins and Murphy are killed pretty quickly. Ramirez and Matheny enter the cave, where they find a briefcase and knock out Anna with the butt of a rifle. As the team clean up the area, Dixon goes into the cave to look at Russian intelligence. Matheny and Dixon have some tense words, and when Anna is brought out of the cave, Dixon is slapping her forcefully. While yelling in Spanish, she claws at Dixon's face, and he knocks her to the ground. Williams comes to Anna's aid and lifts her up, saying that he doesn't need to worry. I won't let her get you. Dixon demands that Anna is a Russian operative, and some in the group voice their disagreement. Dixon demands she comes with them, and Blaine lowers his weapon, asking if he should kill the woman. On the radio, the team is ordered to a different LZ, and Dixon states that if he calls HQ, the team can be ordered to escort Anna. Matheny relents, telling Dixon he's the babysitter. Anna is very resistant to capture in this version, and she curses and spits at Dixon. We then cut to the Predator's heat vision inspecting the camp and watching the soldiers leave. Anna then tries to escape by flinging dirt in Dixon's eyes, to which Ramirez stops her just like the movie. When Miguel stops, thinking he sees something in the trees, Dixon threatens Anna to not make a sound by putting his gun to her. Just like the film, Anna tries to escape. Dillon chases after her, and just like the movie, he is killed. When the team find Anna, she is mortified with blood on her face. As the team search, it is Williams who is killed by the Predator next, not Blaine, and in the same manner. When Blaine charges to aid his pal, he sees the Predator's eyes and opens fire. When the others arrive, they join in too and throw in grenades as well. The Predator bleeds orange blood, which splatters on a leaf, and of course, Anna collects it later. The team muse over what killed Williams, and Dixon states that Williams' wounds are cauterized like a laser hit him. When they set up camp, Anna inspects the blood, while William's body is bagged with intentions to bury him in the morning. There is a longer scene where the predator heals its wounds and his suit repairs itself, while the team try to contact their base over radio. Their response is to continue to the LZ and deliver the prisoner they have, which is a priority. Before going after William's body, the predator is seen entering an invisible doorway, and we are now in a ship that is complete with a trophy room. When finished, it leaves to steal the body of Williamson, and all the events there happen as they did in the movie. The next morning, as the team move out toward the LZ, Blaine kills the scorpion on Dixon's back. The predator would then go to the ground and pick up the dead creature, inspecting it while trying to copy Blaine's voice saying, "Dixon, over here," and changing its pitch to adjust its mimicry to get the voice right. As the team trek forward, the ground gives way and Ramirez grabs a vine to prevent himself from falling. As Dixon falls, he grabs onto Ramirez's ankle and breaks it. The ground gives way more, but Ramirez hangs onto a vine. Dixon falls 50 feet into a mass of vines that breaks his fall, but he goes unconscious when debris hits him. Anna and Matheny fall, but they form a human chain to help Ramirez. Above, Blaine grabs them and pulls them up. Matheny rappels down with rope and saves Dixon just before the vines snap. While Blaine and Miguel struggle to help the men back up, Anna picks up an M16 thinking of escape. She looks in the other direction, but then she thinks of the predator, and then she turns around lowering the weapon, and she sees Blaine approaching her with a knife. She drops the gun out of fear, and Blaine swings his knife upwards, cutting her bonds, and says to her, "I've seen it too." Anna helps the men with the rope, realizing her survival depends on them. They get the men up the cliff, and then help Ramirez. Miguel, Matheny, and Anna help move Ramirez while Blaine calls Dixon useless as they fall behind a little. A sudden silence falls over the area, and a voice says, "Dixon, over here." It is then that Blaine grabs Dixon and points out the predator in the trees. As the other group moves on with the wounded man, the two intend to flush the predator out. While Dixon advances forward, he grabs a vine and is in shock when it moves. It is the predator's hand grabbing Dixon by the wrist and then stabbing him in the throat. Ahead, Miguel asks Matheny if he should go back for Dixon and Blaine, but Matheny states Blaine can handle it, and they keep moving. Blaine is killed just like Dylan died in the movie, with his arm removed and a weapon to his chest. He yells loudly, and Matheny shows great concern, but they have no choice with a wounded man, so they move on. What they discover is a clearing with a great tree, and the area looks burnt as if lightning hit it. They move through the area, leaving ash footprints. As they trek forward, Anna sees a chameleon and finally speaks English to tell them that the creature is like a lizard. She tells them the creature bled. Although Ramirez is angry that she has been holding out, the others agree, and Matheny states that if it bleeds, they can kill it. They then create the trap for the beast like the movie. Miguel is ordered to make it to the chopper and report their position. He does as he is told and leaves into the night. Back at the trap, Anna picks up Ramirez's pistol as he sleeps. Matheny notices this and he grins. He states that if they beat the creature, she can go back rather than live in captivity. Anna replies that when they beat the creature, how will he explain it? He says, "How can we explain any of this?" She then places her hand on his, but Ramirez wakes from a nightmare. There is a discussion where Matheny realizes the hunter is out for sport since Anna was not killed when unarmed. However, he'll be damned if he relinquishes his weapons. The next morning, the predator falls victim to the trap and is caught in the net. Before they fire, the net is destroyed. Anna ducks, but Ramirez fires his pistol. The predator kills him, and before Matheny can kill it, throws a weapon that destroys his M16 and stabs his arm. The predator then kills Anna as she picks up Ramirez's gun and fires. With no choice, Matheny flees into the jungle. When Matheny falls into the river after being chased, he collapses into the mud when the predator appears, and like the film, it can't see him. He passes out from his shoulder wound as a helicopter flies overhead looking for him. Miguel is in the craft, looking over the area. When Matheny wakes, he realizes the mud kept him safe from the vision of the predator, and he makes a bow and arrow. He then yells to attract the predator. The predator does hear the noise, and when it does, it throws a weapon much like the one used in AVP. The weapon cuts through banana stalks and lands in a tree. Matheny then tracks the predator's footprints by moonlight. He comes across a trap made by the predator but avoids it. The soldier deduces that the creature is high up for good view of the jungle. He makes a spear trap, then makes noises in order to draw the creature near him. He waits, lining his bow and arrow up for attack. When he sees the creature's eyes, he fires but misses. The predator immediately shoots towards his position. It moves towards him and he springs the spear trap. The trap hits the creature, but the spear does not land a killing blow. Matheny runs to an area that leads to a waterfall pit that goes down, and while inside, the predator follows him, but it goes below. Matheny follows the creature and has a run-in with a jaguar. He then sees light beyond the water, and he heads towards it, escaping the animal. He then finds himself in a room 50 feet high and lit. The room seems to have carpet made of mushrooms. He then hears sounds of the predator copying Miguel's voice and follows it. The predator hears a sound and Matheny freezes. The hunter changes its voice to Blaine's, saying, "Dixon, over here." Matheny backs away and tries to get out. He ends up in a room where bats swarm. He is on the ground picking up his bow and arrow, and it is then that the predator enters the room, still unable to see him. Suddenly, a cave-in occurs, and Matheny falls below in a pool of water. He lines his bow and arrow up in case the creature comes over the hole, and it does. As it appears, he fires an arrow, and it pierces the creature's neck. It screams, running away. After a minute, there is no sound. Wanting to finish it, he drops his bow but keeps a poisoned arrow as he climbs out of the cave-in. He finds a lot of blood and follows it. We then cut to the predator, who lowers a ramp from its ship to escape. It removes its mask and has trouble breathing our atmosphere. Its vision also turns to only white. Matheny follows the blood trail and also enters the door ramp. To his horror, he discovers the scalps of Ramirez and Anna. He destroys the rack and charges the predator in the room. They begin hand-to-hand combat, and when we see the predator's face, it is described as human with no hair. Its skin is translucent and veins showing. Its eyes are pink like an albino. Through the alien's vision, we see Matheny as a frightening image to the predator. He looks like a skull face with black eye sockets hovering over it. The creature speaks. "Who the hell are you?" The creature is dying, but it tries to surprise him by slashing at him with its wrist blade. They fight further, but the creature cannot breathe. Despite its disadvantage, the creature does get the upper hand thanks to its strength, and is about to kill Matheny. But Matheny grabs something foreign, and the predator flees when it sees what he grabbed. It's one of the creature's weapons. Figuring it out, Matheny uses the weapon, and it not only kills the predator, but damages the ship that's starting up. Realizing the ship is going to blow due to its damage, Matheny runs for it. We then cut to the chopper, where the shockwave hits it. They follow the source and discover Matheny still alive. As they fly away, Miguel and Matheny extend their hands and clasp them firmly. A faint smile crosses Matheny's face. With Arnold cast and McTiernan on board, things started moving fast, as even Arnold had sway on who the producers could be on the project with Joel Silver. I had been working with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a really good friend of mine. We were always both trying to figure out how we could work together, and so I'm the executive on this movie at Fox, and what happened is I became a producer. I auditioned to become a producer, and Arnold says, "Well, you're becoming a producer now. You need to actually produce this movie and come to the jungle with me. Let's go make this." Right after joining the project and getting his producer pal John Davis on board, Schwarzenegger met with the writers Jim and John Thomas. He wanted to discuss their thoughts on the story and his character. Jim Thomas stated that Arnold needed to be different from Commando, pointing out that his introduction in that movie was carrying a tree. That's a cartoon character. You'll play this guy more like an everyman. And at that moment, when you are crawling up through the mud and this incredible creature is about to destroy you, and you have no weapons or anything left, that's a real hero's moment. And then the fact that you haven't escaped, the mud protects you, now you've got the chance to rise back up and take on this creature and be a real hero. Both writers were really impressed that he did this with them, and they would go with the crew during the 4 months of principal photography when it occurred. The writers kept working on the script with new input, and we will cover their next version during part 2, which will go over the rest of the behind-the-scenes journey as well. Until then, be careful who you give your phone number to.
324-762.
Oh, son of a bitch. I'm so embarrassed. You should leave.
Hey, happens all the time.
If you like what you see here, click like and subscribe. Use super thanks. It helps.